Hello everyone, my name is Seraphi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today, it's Morphin time. We are playing Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia, one of my favorite decks to play in the TCG. It's really fun to play the second Master Duel. Not too expensive, there's more SRs here than there were in the last video, but regardless, we definitely want to talk about the ways that you can play this deck and what it does. So for those of you who don't know what Dinomorphia is very similar to Sky Strikers. There's a few key differences. So just like in Sky Strikers, there are only two main deck monsters, and Dinomorphia is more like a trap-focused deck, whereas Sky Strikers is more like a spell-focused deck. And whereas Sky Strikers cares about having 3 spell cards in your graveyard, Dinomorphia cares about having specific trap cards in your graveyard to banish so that you can prevent yourself from taking damage. And why do you care about taking damage? Well, because you're paying life points. You are paying a ton of life points the whole game, and Dinomorphia is all about living on the edge of almost no life points so that you can pop off and crush your opponent. Let's take a look at the deck. So for the hand traps, we are playing Max C. As a quick effect, you can discard this card and each time your opponent special summons a monster, draw a card for the rest of the turn. Card once per turn. Max C is a really good card. You primarily use this card to make sure that you have plenty of interactions during your opponent's turn. If you start the game with only like a couple of traps, then this card will allow you to draw their hand traps. It allows you to draw cards like Ash Blossom or Ghost Bell to get yourself additional disruption. And the longer your opponent's turn goes on, the more disruption you're going to need to try and keep them down. So Max C really is an equalizer in terms of, whose turn it is. Next up, we have Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. If your opponent adds a card from the deck to the hand, special summons from the deck, or sends a card from the deck to the graveyard, you can activate Ash Blossom's effect, discard it, and negate that. Ash Blossom is a tuner monster. She is level 3, and that is very important for this deck. We'll talk about why. Next up, we have Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, also a level 3 tuner monster. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, you can discard this card to negate the activation. Add a card from the graveyard to the hand, deck, or extra deck. Special summon a monster from the graveyard, or banish a card from the graveyard. So Ghost Bell is to the graveyard what Ash Blossom is to the deck. So when you use Ghost Bell, you are basically preventing your opponent from accessing the graveyard. It's like a one-time Necro Valley effect, which is really useful. And, she is a card that sees a lot of play because there are a lot of cards and decks that care about reviving from the graveyard or banishing from the graveyard or returning cards from the graveyard to the hand, that sort of thing. Definitely a good card. You should definitely play it at least 3. Next up, we have a hand trap that some of you might not be familiar with. It's called Miscellaneous Saurus. It is a fire dinosaur monster with 1,800 attack points and 1,000 defense points. During the main phase, you can discard this card, and then during this main phase, dinosaur monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Any of them. Any of your opponent's activated effects. This is the craziest hand trap in the game. So your opponent tries to activate a card like Lightning Storm. You discard Miscellaneous Saurus as a chain because it's a quick effect. Your opponent's Lightning Storm doesn't resolve. Then they normal summon Sprite Blue and they go into Nightmare Unicorn. Nightmare Unicorn, discard a card, shuffle it back to the deck, doesn't work. Nightmare Cerberus, discard a card, destroy it, doesn't work. Access Code Talker can't be responded to, banish 4 cards from your graveyard, try to pop the same monster 4 times, it doesn't work. Your monsters are completely unaffected for the rest of the turn. All of them. Even monsters you don't control yet, which is really, really weird. So Miscellaneous Saurus, you can activate this card and just all your dinosaur monsters. So if you summon additional dinosaur monsters after Miscellaneous Saurus has resolved, those monsters are also unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Really, really stupid. Next up, you have the other effect, which is you can banish any number of dinosaur monsters from your graveyard, including this card, to special summon a dinosaur monster with a level equal to the number of total monsters that you banished to activate this effect, but destroy it during the end phase. So Miscellaneous Saurus and 3 other dinosaurs to summon a level 4 from your deck. That's pretty good. I'm only playing this card at 1 because you can search it with Fossil Dig. I think this is a great card. You could play this card at 3, but it's a hard once per turn on its effect, and you don't really need it on your turn all that much. It's really like a card to survive your opponent's turn. So then we get to Infinite Impermanence. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. And if this card was set, then the spells and traps activated in this zone column are negated for the rest of the turn. And if you control no cards, you can activate this card from the hand. That's pretty good. Okay, so that's it. That's 3, 6, 9, 10, 13. So more hand traps than you might normally see. It's usually about 10, but Ghost Bell is a really good card, so I think it's fine to justify playing 3 more hand traps in this deck. And again, the level 3 tuner does help us a lot. For the main deck monsters, we are playing Dinomorphia Therizia. This is a level 4 Dark Dinosaur monster. If this card is normal or special summon, you can set one Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap zone. Then if your life points are 2,000 or less, this card gains 500 attack points permanently. Now, setting directly from your deck means that this card cannot be ashed. It's not adding a card to your hand. So the main thing you need to worry about with Dinomorphia Therizia is whether the card gets Imperm or Effect Failure. And both those cards can be countered by you discarding Miscellaneous Source. So this is a great option. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish one trap from your graveyard to special summon one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, except Therizia. You can only use each effect once per turn. So all the Dinomorphia monsters float into other Dinomorphia monsters by banishing trap cards from the graveyard. That's fine. You have a ton of trap cards to use to pay the cost, and Therizia is just great. So you will normally set your Dinomorphia Frenzy off this card. If you already have Frenzy, you can get a card like Intact, so it's good. We're only playing 2 copies of Diplos. This might be a mistake. I haven't had too many problems with only playing 2 copies of Diplos, but there have been some situations where I really needed Diffuse from deck and I didn't have another card, so maybe 3 is correct. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Dinomorphia card from your deck to the graveyard. Then if your life points are 2,000 or less, burn your opponent for 500. Obviously, this is nowhere near as good as Therizia. But, I mean, it's another monster that you can have, which is important, and you need it as fusion material. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish one trap card from your graveyard to special summon a level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, except Diplos. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is fine. You will use this card primarily in your deck as material for fusion summoning, and then when you revive it with your alerts, you can use it as Xyz material as well. And that's it for the main deck. There are only 2 Dinomorphia monsters. Fossil Dig, add one level 6 or lower dinosaur monster from your deck to your hand. Great, you will usually use this to get Therizia. If you already have Therizia, get Miscellaneous Source and pop off. Pot of Prosperity, this card is limited to 1. Banish 3 or 6 cards of your choice from your extra deck face down. For the rest of the turn after this effect resolves, any damage your opponent takes is halved. Also, excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of cards banished and add 1 card from your deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 Pot of Prosperity per turn, and you cannot draw cards by card effects the turn you activate this card. So this card cannot be used the same turn that you activate Max C if you drew a card off of Max C. Yeah, so you just can't draw any other cards by card effects. But this is a good card, and you're probably going to Max C on your opponent's turn instead of your turn anyway. So as far as what you would banish, usually it's going to be 2 copies of Rexterm, and then probably like Evolzar Logia, Evolzar Dolka, Skystriker Ace Azalea, and another Kentrigea. Yeah, probably. Just the cards that you don't really need. Then we're playing Ferret Flames. I love this card. This card is so much fun. This card has bailed me out of so many jams. If the combined attack of all face-up monsters your opponent controls is higher than your life point total, make your opponent shuffle face-up monsters they control into the deck, except monsters with 0 attack points, so the combined attack with the remaining monsters becomes equal to or less than your life point total. So as long as your life point total is almost nothing, your opponent just shuffles their entire field back into the deck. Great. That's what we want. So this card doesn't target, it doesn't destroy, it doesn't banish, it doesn't bounce, it's spinning everything. And returning cards to the deck is the most powerful removal by far. There's no cost to this, you just have to be at low life points. And you can use it more than once per turn. So yeah, this is a great card. Alright, now we get to the trap cards. Dinomorphia Domain. During your main phase, pay half your life points. Fusion summon 1 Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as material. When your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from your graveyard. You take no damage for your opponent's card effects this turn. You can only activate 1 Dinomorphia Domain per turn. So, the fusion cards and the normal traps have an effect where you can banish it to make yourself take no effect damage the whole turn. The counter traps have an effect where you can banish it to make yourself take no battle damage for 1 battle. Both those really, really good effects. Domain, usually you'll use this to make Kentrigea pretty solid. It's a card that you want to play at 3 because it's basically one of your main starters. You're not going to play this card off of Therizia because Frenzy is better, but it's a good card nonetheless. Dinomorphia Alert. Pay half your life points. Special summon up to 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 8 or less, but you cannot declare an attack with them this turn. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Dinomorphia monsters. When a card or effect is activated while your life points are 2,000 or less, so you can banish it and you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects this turn. Card once per turn on this effect. Okay, so Dinomorphia alert, you will use this to bring back your Diplo and your Therizia during the end phase of your opponent's turn, so that you can use them as seize material on your turn. Basic. It's a good card. Dinomorphia Brute. Pay half your life points, destroy 1 Dinomorphia monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. When your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from your graveyard. You take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects this turn. Okay, so Brute does destroy 1 of your cards, but remember all of your Dinomorphia monsters float, and getting to pop 1 of your opponent's cards is pretty nice. You don't target with this, you can destroy a spell, trap, or monster. It's just a good option to have, and you can set it with Therizia if you need to. Okay, the best card in the deck, Dinomorphia Frenzy. During your opponent's main phase only, pay half your life points. Fusion summon 1 Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extra deck using only 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extra deck as fusion material. When your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points are 2,000 or less, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects this turn. Okay, so you will set your Dinomorphia Frenzy, you will use it to make Kentragina. Kentragina will then banish it to activate it again, and you get to use it to make Rexterum. So this card by itself will get you both Kentragina and Rexterum at the same time. Very, very powerful card. It gets your life points down to 2,000 by itself. So yes, this card is probably the best card in the deck, and definitely you would play it at 20 if you could. Solemn Strike. When a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, pay 1,500 life points to negate the summoner activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Okay, Solemn Strike is an interesting card. It is really good to just negate cards and negate summons. Both those effects are really strong. The problem with Solemn Strike is that it's not a pay half your life points like the other Dinomorphia cards. It's pay 1,500 life points. So if you use too many Dinomorphia cards, you actually might not be able to pay the cost of this card, but you can use your Stealth Bergia to actually make this card free, and in that case, it becomes an extremely broken ability. So I like this card. It's fine. You want to open it early. Dinomorphia Sonic. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control a Dinomorphia monster, pay half your life points to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card, then destroy 1 Dinomorphia monster you control. That's a pretty rough drawback, but being able to negate a spell or trap is pretty important. And then during damage calculation, when you would life points are 2,000 or less, if you would take battle damage, you can banish this counter from your graveyard, and you take no battle damage from that battle. You can only activate 1 Dinomorphia Sonic per turn. So protecting yourself from battle damage is very important. I usually will mill this card off of Diplo. When I summon Diplo, this is the best card to have in the graveyard because its drawback is really bad. You don't necessarily want to play this card and against every deck. You're only running 1 copy anyway, so getting the rare protection in your graveyard is pretty good. Then lastly, we have Dinomorphia Intact. When a monster effect is activated while you control a Dinomorphia card, not monster, pay half your life points, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. Also, whenever you take battle damage this turn, the damage taken becomes half your life points at that time. During damage calculation, while your life points are 2,000 or less, if you take battle damage, you can banish this card from the graveyard and you take no damage from that battle. Okay, there's a lot going on here. So, first things first. When a monster effect is activated while you control a Dinomorphia card, not monster, card, you can activate this effect to negate it. So what this means, if you activate your Dinomorphia Frenzy, for this chain, you control Dinomorphia Frenzy. If your opponent responds to Dinomorphia Frenzy by activating Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, you can then play Dinomorphia Intact to negate Ash Blossom. Really, really strong, even if that's the only card on your field. So yes, the lingering effect of whenever you take battle damage this turn, the damage you take becomes half your life points at the time that you take damage is really funny. Basically, it means that you can't die from battle for the rest of the turn, which is really, really weird. But of course, you're still taking damage. It's just half your life points, and that's actually good for you. The lower your life points are, the better you are, the better off you are in Dinomorphia. So, a really funny little effect there. And then, of course, the free damage negation. So, yeah, this is a great card. You should definitely play this card at 3, and whenever you open it, it'll be good. For the extra deck, we have our boss monster, Dinomorphia Kentragina. This is a level 6 dinosaur fusion monster. Dark, requires 2 Dinomorphia monsters with different names, 4,000 attack points, and 0 defense points. This card loses attack points equal to your life point total. Ouch. You could have 4,000 life points. This card would still have 0 attack points. But after you get down to 4,000 life points, the lower you go, the stronger she gets. Kentragina is a very, very interesting card, and I like playing her a lot. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can pay half your life points and banish one Dinomorphia normal trap from your graveyard. This effect becomes that trap's effect when this card is activated. So when you activate Frenzy, you can summon your Kentragina, then Kentragina can immediately banish Frenzy to play it again so you can get Rex Tear. That's good, and then your life points are down to 2,000. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. Okay, you don't have to pay a cost to float with Kentragina, that's great, so you just bring back your Therizia. Next up we have Dinomorphia Stealthburgia. Level 6 Dark Dinosaur monster with 0 attack points and 2,500 defense points, requires 2 Dinomorphia monsters with different names. While your life points are 2,000 or less, you do not pay life points to activate trap cards or Dinomorphia monster effects. That is a double-edged sword. So you do want your life points to be low for Rex Tear, so 2,000 is probably not where you want to stop paying life points, but being able to activate Solemn Strike for free is really, really good. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, as a quick effect, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack points. So burn effects in a deck that does not otherwise have burn is really funny. People don't play around them. They don't even expect a burn effect to come out, so they don't read it, and then when they get killed by it, it just makes it all the funnier. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. Excellent. That's just a really good effect. And then lastly, for the Dinomorphia cards, we have Dinomorphia Rex Tear. Level 8, 3,000 attack, 0 defense points. Dark Dinosaur. This requires 1 Dinomorphia Fusion monster plus 1 Dinomorphia monster. So if you try to make this with Domain, you will have to use a Dinomorphia Fusion monster from your field. The best way to make this card is with Frenzy because you can use a monster from your extra. Your opponent can activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life point total. Wow, that's dumb. So this card is like Fluandre's and M-Pen, except it works on every monster and it's just based on attack points. It only works on monsters that your opponent controls, so they can still use the effects of cards in the graveyard and cards in their hand, but you can basically turn off every monster on their field, and that's really, really good. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. As a quick effect, you can pay half your life points, and the attack of all monsters your opponent currently controls become equal to your life point total until the end of the turn. That is so good. You just win every battle. You can use this effect during the damage step because it affects attack points. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one level 6 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. So Rex Tear floats into the other fusion monsters. Again, really, really strong effect. Bringing out Kentragina in the middle of battle is just going to be really good. Then the other monsters, we have Chaos Angel. Requires 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner light or dark monster, and for a synchro summon you can treat a light or dark monster you control as a tuner. So you will make this with one of your level 6 fusions, like Subterfugia, and either Diplo or Therizia. Good enough. If this card is a special summon, you can target 1 card on the field and banish it, and it gains the effects based on the original attributes. We only make dark, so monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. 3,500 attack points, banishes a card, can't be destroyed by battle. Good enough. Then we have this little friend, Psychic End Punisher. This requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuners. It is level 11, 3,500 attack points, 3,500 defense points. While your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this synchro summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Wow, that's insane. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, target 1 monster you control, 1 card your opponent controls, and banish them. I actually didn't even know that it had that effect until I read this just now. I've never used this effect. I would never pay more life points. At the start of your battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. There you go. So if you're at 250 life points, your opponent is at 8,000, then Psychic End Punisher goes up to, what, like 11,000 attack points? Yeah. So this card can't be affected by your opponent's activated effects and just crashes into them. Now, how do you make this card? You make it with either Ash Blossom or Ghost Bell and Rex Tear. Easy. 3, 8, done. For the Xyz monsters, we are playing Evolzar Logia. Requires 2 level 4 dinosaur monsters, 2,400 attack, 2,000 defense. When a monster would be normal or special summoned or a spell or trap card is activated as a quick effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy it. You might recognize that card. That is Solemn Judgment. So, Solemn Judgment as a monster. Perfect. Love it. Then we have Evolzar Dolka. When another monster's effect is activated as a quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy the monster. That is not once per turn. So, summon a monster, use its effect, negate, destroy. Summon a monster, use its effect, negate, destroy. What else you got? This is a great card. It's a shame that we can't really play it too often. I really want to make Evolzar Dolka more often in this deck, but the only time that you actually get 2 level 4s out is when you're already winning the game really hard, and at that point it's basically just better to go into Arc Rebellion, but I love this card and the artwork is great too. Raider's Knight, this is where we actually go to most of the time. So Dinomorphia alert into Raider's Knight requires 2 level 4 darks, detach 1 material, exceeds summon a rank 5 using this card as material. Yeah, pretty good. And the rank 5 that we're going to make is Arc Rebellion. This Exceed Summon card cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can detach 1 material from this card. This card gains attack equal to the total attack of all other monsters on the field. Then if this card has a Dark Exceeds monster as material, negate the effects of all other face-up monsters on the field permanently. Now, important to note, this is the only way that you can get Kentragina up to her full 4,000 attack points, by negating her. So if you activate Arc Rebellion Exceeds Dragon's effect, Kentragina stops nerfing herself, which is really nice. And then Arc Rebellion also gains her original attack points of 4,000, again, really nice. After this effect resolves, you cannot declare attacks with other monsters for the rest of the turn. Cool. So Arc Rebellion, you negate all your opponent's monster effects, then you crush them in 1 hit. It's very, very insane. And then lastly, we have Sky Striker Ace Azalea. Requires 2 light or dark monsters. Link to 1,500 attack points. Must be link summon. You can only special summon Sky Striker Ace Azalea once per turn. If this card is special summoned, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. Then if you have 3 or less spell cards in your graveyard, send this card to the graveyard. Once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish 1 spell from your graveyard and destroy that monster. That's never going to happen. We're never going to have 3 spells in our graveyard. We play 4 spells in the deck in total. So this is just like, I have to get rid of this card. Let me spend 2 monsters to get rid of it. Usually you'll make Chaos Angel instead of Azalea, but Azalea is like, okay, I don't have the right levels somehow, so here's an option. Alright, there we go. So that is the deck. Let's take a look at the replay. Okay, we're going first against Heroes. So we start off with Fossil Dig, which we will use to draw our Therizia. Then we normal summon Therizia, and we'll use this effect to set our Frenzy. We set Intact as well, and we pass. It's our opponent's turn. Our opponent is going to start off with E Emergency Call. Now, you might think that you want to Ash Blossom this. No, there are a lot worse things that heroes can do, so you want to be careful with your Ash Blossom, as that is the main way that you can interact with cards that your opponent plays from the hand. We're going to take care of every monster he would summon from the field, so we let this go. Instead, we're going to activate Frenzy in response. We pay half our life points. We're now at 4,000. We send the Diplo from the deck and the Stealth Brigadier from the graveyard, from the extra deck, to make Kentragina in the extra monster set. Kentragina is 0 attack points. The opponent draws Stratos. That's fine. Now we're going to turn Chain on so that Kentragina's effect can be used immediately after she's special summoned without passing priority. We pay half our life points. She goes up to 2,000. We are now at 2,000 life points. Banish the Frenzy to use its effect again. Send a Therizia from the deck and a Kentragina from the extra deck to the graveyard to make Rex Tear. The opponent is going to normal summon the Elemental Hero Solid Soldier, and they're going to use this effect. When this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 hero monster from your hand. Now I know that he's going to summon Stratos, so I'm going to chain Rex Tear's effect, even though it's not going to save me any battle damage, and I'm going to pay half my life points to go down to 1,000, which will bring Kentragina up to 3,000 attack points, to make it so that his monster's attack points are 1,000. By doing this, now he can't activate the activated effects of any monster with 1,000 or more attack points. This does not negate the card that's already on the stack, but it allows me to, he special summons Stratos, doesn't even get the option. He could have popped my face down card. No, he can't search, he can't do anything. It's just a vanilla. Now he's going to activate Polymerization, fuse the 2 monsters to make Sunrise. Sunrise would normally search him Miracle Fusion, but he can't activate it. He activates Solid Soldier's effect to special summon a hero monster in the graveyard. We will activate Intact to negate this. We go down to 500 life points. Kentragina now at 3,500 attack points. I was going to activate Miracle Fusion. He just opened it. Insane. Fusion summon the 2 monsters he just used as material. to make Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage. Now, Flame Wingman Infernal Rage has 2 effects. If this card is special summon, you could add a card with favorite and its name from your deck to your hand, and if you contribute this card to special summon a level 7 or lower Elemental Hero monster from your extra deck that cannot be normal or special summoned, ignoring its summoning conditions. So, neither of those effects can be activated. He doesn't get to search, he doesn't get to tribute. He's just got a 2100 attack vanilla. Alright, he enters the battle phase. He's going to attack my Therizia to kill me, and I will banish Intact from the graveyard so I take no battle damage. And then he ends his turn. Cool. It's our turn. We draw. We're going to summon Diplos and use its effect. We mill the domain, pay 500 life points, take it. Then we're going to activate Kentrigina's effect, so we banish the domain from our graveyard to fuse the Therizia from our deck with the Diplos on our field. Make another Kentrigina, also has 3750 attack points. Then we activate Rextream's effect, so we pay half our life points. We are now down to 125 life points, and that changes the attack points of all his monsters to 125. Battle, we attack the Sunrise, he takes 3,750. We attack the Flame Wingman, 3,750, and that is lethal. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the power of Dinomorphia. Shut down all of your opponent's monster effects, take no damage even though you're walking the tightrope, and then lower your opponent's life points by dropping their attack points down to what you have. My name is Seraphi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.